2021. We'll be giving you more details in relation to this. All right, so even as the world recovers from the effects of COVID-19, of course, there has been a massive impact on the local music scene. Now, with many events being brought to a halt, music artists have had to rethink how they create an income stream. Let's see. And he has partnered with creators to publish their work and receive direct payment from consumers of their content. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Cafe.
Thank you for having me, Brenda.
All right. So when you're looking at the creative sectors, it's quite informal and they have so many challenges. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Well, I think one of the there's a myriad of challenges that people in the creative industry face. And one of them is just the cost, right? So let me explain it this way. If I am an independent documentary maker and I have a documentary that will take me 10 days to shoot, at KFCB, you will have to pay a license of 5,000 shillings, right? Then 1,000 shillings for every day that you're in the field. Then you're going to have to take that same film to be classified. And if you're classifying a 45-minute documentary, it is 100 shillings per minute, right? So those are just the classification costs, right? You haven't talked about being registered. You haven't talked about digital services taxes. You haven't talked about the fact that even in the field, you're going to have to hire your camera. If you want it to be of a certain spec, an international spec, you're talking about 20,000 shillings a day on top of the taxes. So by the time you're at the end of your production, and you want to do a top quality documentary as an example, you will have spent hundreds of thousands of shillings even before you're able to earn from that, right? So one of the main barriers in Kenya at least is the tax environment and the licensing environment. The other is that I think, just from an attitude point of view, I don't think that there's enough focus on being able to fund, being able to support the creative sector. And that can be a huge earner for this country. And I'm not talking in terms of, just small money, a few billions. Yeah, I'm talking of hundreds of billions of shillings, primarily because of the mobile phone. People can create content on the mobile phone. People can consume content on the mobile phone. They can pay for it on the mobile phone. And our internet penetration is only getting deeper. So why not take advantage of things like that and be able to fund, support, and enable people in the creative sector, be it music, be it film, sports, journalism, to be able to do the work that they know how to do and focus really on creativity as opposed to all of these barriers that you have to be able to negotiate.
All right, John, you spoke a little about it, access to finance.
Yeah.
Currently, at the moment, if, I'm a photographer and I'm going into a financial institution, they're probably going to ask me for collateral. Like you're saying, will I be giving my cameras, which I don't have? How is it like accessing finance?
It's very difficult. You see, first of all, how do you quantify your creative ideas, right? How do you quantify that in terms of a balance sheet that you can then take to the bank and say, okay, so these are going to be my costs, these are going to be, you can quantify that in terms of the practical sense, but how do you quantify just how valuable an idea is, right? That's a serious question that we need to start to consider. If financial institutions cannot quantify what the value of a creative idea is, because many times that's what people will start with, then what other means can you access financing? So there's grants and there's grants that people can access for various areas of interest. But those also come with their own disadvantages, right? Many times grants are tied to specific subject matter. And what that means for a creative is that you cannot really explore the spectrum of your own creativity. You'll have to do certain kinds of jobs to be able to access that funding, and then perhaps look at what your own ideas, what your own input will be a little further down the road. So that's a challenge. And I think that's why for us Shahara is important, because what we want is for people to be able to earn directly from their audiences and be able to fund their ideas or have some residual income that can turn into maybe capital to fund your next idea. That's something that's missing. Access to finance is a huge barrier. It's a huge barrier, unfortunately, Brenda.
All right. So when you're looking at the government, is the government doing enough? What exactly is it doing at the moment, and what else can be done, especially from a policy perspective?
I think from a policy perspective, there's been an ongoing conversation. I'll talk about the classification, for instance. There's been an ongoing conversation about the rules and the standards under the Stages and Plays Act, I believe. There's been an ongoing conversation about how to make that a bit more inclusive for creatives who perhaps don't have this kind of setup, around them. However, and there's also been a move by the Kenya Film Commission, which I think is one of the more progressive parastatals in Kenya today, to fund ideas right down to the counties. So they're funding filmmakers at the county level, they're funding filmmakers at the national level, they're taking certain people to film markets outside the country. So those kinds of things are happening, and they are progressive. But on the whole, what we need to think about is how do we ensure that at minimum, a person with a good idea, a person from Chepkube, who has an idea that they want to be able to create, not only has the access, right, to finance at some level, but also the access to markets, right, at some level. That's something that I think the government needs to start to engender a little more. And what that could mean is having talent centers, as an example, where people will be able to do that. Hubs, creativity hubs, that you can set up at the county level to ensure that people don't need to hire equipment, for instance, can have shared or common working spaces for their post-production processes. Things like that, those small things will eventually add up to a lot bigger gains. And then finally, it is the marketing of Kenya as a destination for film, etc., and the taxes that go into that, but not only as a destination for outsiders, but a destination for creatives internally. What was happening in Machakos in between 2013 and 2017, in my view, was quite progressive, because you're providing a space for people to actually come and create. Those things, that kind of infrastructure, is indispensable to ensuring that an economy, a creative economy, grows in this country.
All right, let's look at some of the developed markets, especially in Africa. And I know countries such as Nigeria and South Africa, they are really developed, and the sector has really grown tremendously. But what are some of the 3 key lessons we can learn from these markets?
I think from Nigeria, it is understanding who your market is, and also the route to market for the content that you're creating. So a story is told about how Nigeria had a huge problem with piracy, right? To the extent that a filmmaker would make a film today, tomorrow it's on the streets, they're not earning any royalties from it. So, and I don't know how true this is, but for me, the philosophy or the principle behind it is what I grasped, is that filmmakers began to work with the pirates to ensure that they get paid a certain amount of money for the masters, and then these guys can distribute and then earn money off of distribution. Essentially, it's understanding what the route to market is. That's the first thing. The second thing is understanding what to create, right? I think Kenya is now along the path of actually creating good quality but local content that speaks to the various audiences that you have. And then third, of course, what we've been discussing, it's government support. Whereas in Nigeria it might not be as present, they have over time been able to build an industry that then commands the attention of government, so Nollywood. So if Riverwood would be able to come together and various other creators and bargain collectively for the attention of the government, not just to have a conversation, but to speak about real things, tax, shooting licenses, the cost of importation of equipment, cameras, etc., the actual tools of our trade, right? And And then also being able to if you engender things like that, then you'll have specialization in various areas. So for instance, I was at a business yesterday where they only do post-production, right? So if you're doing a project, that you take it to them and they finish it off for you. That kind of specialization is what is going to drive quality in this industry. So for instance, you, Brenda, focus on the storytelling. There will be someone else who's going to focus on other processes. And at the end of the day, what you're standing behind is a product that everybody can be proud of because of the amount of creative energy that has gone into it. That's why credits in movies are so long, by the way, because it takes a huge cast of people to do these things.
All right. Thank you so much, John Alanamu from Africa Uncensored. Of course, he was shedding light in relation to the creatives industry.
Quite interesting indeed. That's on the Morning Hustle, Brenda. And today is the day where we speak some Lingala.
I know Mbote, right? Boris, hello.
Good morning. They say Mbote.
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 Yeah.
That is in Hilingala. Our neighbors in DRC are about to join us in the East Africa community. A big milestone indeed. They are a country we've been keeping an eye on.
I mean, other than music, and I know you love Congolese music.
Oh, yes.
Other than music, what else can we expect in terms of business activity? I know they do a lot of timber. What else can we expect?
There's timber, there's fresh produce. I mean, there's a lot of diamonds and mineral resources that will be trading together. But so far we know a number of banks are knocking on their doors.
Yes.
And this is where we have to bring it to a close, Brenda. And there's a word that I wanted to mention as we wrap up, and this is in Lingala. They say, Kende Malamo. That is bye-bye.
All right, yeah. As Abi perfects his Lingala and Congolese, I'm so grateful for having you on Business Cafe. I've been your host, Brenda Kerubo.
Thank you for your valid company. Kende Malamu once again. Bye-bye in Congolese, and we'll be keeping you posted on that admission into the ESC. My name is Abegina. Join us later on for more news.